Hi guys and welcome! I know, there's a cat behind me. The topic for today's video is fake versus real. So we're gonna find out whether you can spot a forged signature. Hi, my name is Alex and if you're new here, consider subscribing. Now, there are quite a few valid reasons why someone would like to forge a signature. First one is to falsify documents, and the second one is to increase the value of certain items. Like, for example, selling a photograph of a famous person or a famous painting. Now, I want you to remember that if your case is really important, like you really need to be sure whether the signature is real or fake, you should absolutely get a professional. But in this video, we're going to do it for fun. Today, I'm going to provide you with all the tools you need to identify the forged signature yourself. So let's go! These are 8 most important things to look at when you're trying to assess validity of a signature. Now let's break it down. First of all, the shaky handwriting. If you can see that there is no fluidity in the letters, or if the letters are having weird angles especially, then it signifies that the person was probably very stressed when writing their signature, which is very unnatural. You know, signature is the expression of ourselves. It should be fluid and fast and confident. The second one is the pen lifts, and it actually connects with the first one. If you cannot keep the fluidity of the signature because the signature is not yours, then you're going to be pausing multiple times throughout the process, and you're gonna be able to notice the specific pen lifts. The third one, signs of retouching. You know when you write something down and you realize that it's just not perfect, so you're trying to override it to make it better? Now, this stays on the paper, so you can see the signs of retracing in a forged signature. The fourth one is the letter proportions. And if you see that half of the signature or 1/3 of the signature is looking kind of differently from the rest of it, we're probably having some kind of conflict in here, and we might assume it was not written at one go by a real owner of the signature, but the person was pausing in between, and hence we have these differences between letters. The fifth one, signature shape and dimensions. Even if you achieve to forge a signature as best as you can, if you actually take a look back, you can see that the overall shape of it is kind of different than the original. Also, it might be a bit more squashed or a bit more wide. The sixth one is the letter slants. If you're forging a signature and you're taking those multiple pauses in between, you might have the beginning of the signature written with a right slant, then you kind of just make it vertical, and then you turn to the left. So overall, you have varying slants, which is a very good example that the signature was forged, and it happens especially if you have a signature under the angle, so it's not straight on the paper, because it's more difficult to maintain. The seventh one, speed and acceleration and smoothness of curves. The curves in a signature are the most difficult because these curves have a special width and a special dimensions and a special shape. So by an untrained hand, it might be really difficult to achieve the same result, and therefore you should always look at the smoothness and fluidity of strokes. When it comes to speed, if the original signature is written very fast, then usually the letters are getting more contracted, or if they're getting wider, you have this fluidity of the wavy line, and this wavy line looks exactly the same every time because it's muscle memory writing the signature. Now, if you're trying to forge it, you don't have this muscle memory, so you kind of need to fake this wavy line or fake this contraction, and it's gonna come out in an unnatural, visible way. The last one is the pen pressure and pressure changes. Pressure of handwriting in general very much depends on the emotional state of the writer. So if the writer is stressed because they're trying to forge a signature, then the pressure might be very thick. Also, if the pressure is noticeably changing, it's because the writer is taking these deep breaths in between the parts of the signature. Okay, now let's get to practice. Let's see whether you can spot a forged signature. So we have an example of Taylor Swift, and what do you think? Which signature is real and which one is fake? I'm gonna give you an answer at the end of the analysis. We're keeping in mind all the things we have listed so far, but I want to add up on that. Let's take, for example, the color of the ink. Now, in this particular example, the ink doesn't really vary that much. However, sometimes you may find that the person is signing their signature only with black ink. If you use a blue one, that's a failure straight up. When it comes to celebrities and signing autographs, the black Sharpie is actually the best one because it doesn't smudge. So if this person tried something with green or red or blue, that would be a sign it's a forgery. I want you to look at the signature placement. As we can see, both of these signatures are placed on the top right corner, so it's fairly the same. However, I want you to look at this example now. When Taylor was signing the copies of Fearless, you can see that she puts her signature on a very specific place on that cover, and it's in order to look aesthetically overall. So she puts it on the top right corner on her hair. Now, if you look at the second one, somebody just completely covered the name of the album, and that's one of the elements how we know that that one is forged. I'm gonna give you a few more examples so you can notice what I'm talking about. You see, she doesn't want to cover herself, she doesn't want to cover the title. What connects with the placement is a very characteristic point in which her signature is starting. So I'm wondering if you noticed that already. She has a very specific loop, and if you look at the other signed copies of that album, you can see that she always starts this loop between letters O and V, and the loop crosses through the letter R. So I think that already gave you a huge insight into which one of these signatures is fake. And indeed, the first one is fake. Generally, if you look at that loop, I told you already before that the loops are very difficult to forge. This loop has a very specific angle here, which is very unnatural. And in general, I feel a lot of tension when I look at that loop. Also, the rest of the signature is having a rather big pressure. So yes, guys, there we have it. We covered the basics of signature analysis in terms of forgery. Join me for part 2 if you want to distinguish more real signatures from the fake ones. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them down in the comments and like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I'll see you in part 2. Bye bye!